Hello and welcome to Glitch Please. This is our 21st episode, which means we're legally of age. Congratulations, everyone.
Woo!
I'm Ashley.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Alfredo.
So basically, this is the AAA team. We should probably start adding microtransactions. I hear that's the way that the industry is headed.
Good one.
Cosmetic. Just cosmetic, as long as it's cosmetic.
No, we're going to do fully functional ones because this episode is brought to you by Squarespace, and we'll be talking about them a little bit later. But there's a couple of different things we'll cover. We're starting to get into the really heavy games period of the year. So we're going to talk about South Park, The Fractured Butthole, and Shadow of War, both this week. Gus couldn't make it. I wanted him to talk about Shadow of War because he was really into Shadow of Mordor, but...
That's so surprising to me. But we'll talk about
he was in that?
Yeah, it's super surprising to me.
Okay, well, yeah. We'll get into it. And then we'll also talk about some current events because there was some crazy stuff happening this week. So should we just get straight into that? Actually, before we dive.
Okay.
Before we dive.
I'm
Because
pulling
we
back
are
on the dive there.
Pulling back. Put on your like little swimmers. What have you guys been playing besides Shadow of War, South Park?
Those have been my big ones, to be honest.
That's about it?
I played a little more Cuphead. I really want to finish
How
that
far are
game.
you in Cuphead now?
I'm in the third world.
I completed the second island, and then I've been playing so many other things that I'm like, you know what? Today I choose to love myself. I'm not going to play Cuphead.
So it's so well made. I need to get
It's
into
a fantastic game.
I definitely played more Golf Story and more Stardew. I didn't play a lot more Stardew. I need to really get into it. I know you're probably like down that rabbit hole like crazy.
So deep in that.
Those are probably my main games. I played a little more Evil Within 2. That game, that game sucks.
You're not into it?
No, I played more of it. Like the shooting is so bad.
It's not that good of a game.
And I'm not like a scary game person because I hate scary games and I get too scared. But even that game, like I was able to play at least some of it, and like this is for people that like horror games. Like this must not be scary even a little bit. Like.
I don't know, from the people that I've spoken to who do like horror games, and I do have to consult with them because I'm not a horror game person.
Yeah.
They're like, it's very cool. They like the open world elements, like the town, and actually being able to like go and like interact with all that stuff and like branch out a little bit more. That it's a little bit less linear, and there's a lot of good things to it. But it's very difficult for me to judge because I spend the whole time hiding and not particularly enjoying myself because that's not what I play games for.
I think it's the definition. The Evil Within 2 is a definition of an okay game. Like, compared to the first one, you get the open world aspects, but you lose the horror. The first one was way more scary. You feel
when you're in the open world, it's not scary. When you go to the tight areas, like you
feel confined and you feel cornered.
The town, the open area, Union it's more just sort of generally creepy, right? That there'll be like a house and you'll see a body suddenly like dragged out the front door. And so there's like a couple like creepy elements, but it's not where the scares are designed to happen so much.
I think where the horror came from wasn't like I said in the first one, where you didn't have that much space to maneuver around, and fighting wasn't really an option because of the lack of ammo. And in these battles, they're very more action-oriented, in my opinion. And on top of that, the ending kind of just fell apart for me completely.
Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, so I was like, ooh.
Did you actually beat it?
I actually beat it. That's why I can't, for me personally, I can't say it's a terrible game because I still want to finish it. But it's the definition of an okay game. I was just like, I couldn't really recommend it to anybody. I had a good time playing it. I'll never revisit it again. I don't really know if I'll play an Evil Within 3 at this point. Even if it was offered to me.
It's a difficult time of year to be an okay game.
It really is. Yeah, especially with this.
Next week is going to be like
there's so much
to
do.
Start scheduling game time because there's so many different games coming out.
Next week, I don't know what we're going to do. I think I'm going to have to miss next week's episode because I'm flying down to PAX Australia.
No.
And I'm like, how can I miss that episode? Everything happens next week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to we'll see. Maybe I'll
Are you going to be back
Skype
in
in or
time
something.
the following episode to talk about Mario? Oh boy.
I hope so.
All right.
I need to actually look at what my travel schedule is because I know that I'm going down and it's it's through like the 30th. I'm missing Halloween, which is a huge bummer. So fingers crossed, because I want to talk about all those things. If I have to Skype in, I'll do it.
Because most of the most of the big releases don't come out till Friday, which is after this would be recorded next week.
Which is tricky, right?
Right. I also spent a few hours over the weekend. This is like the lamest thing in the world. I spent a few hours playing a solo board game. Like, I say a few hours. I spent probably 8 hours playing a solo board game, like over the course of the weekend.
And did you enjoy it?
Yes, I'm still learning it. It's like the most complicated game. I tweeted a picture of it, but it basically would take up this whole table just in setup. It took me like 45 minutes to set the thing up. It's called Mage Knight. I don't know if I like it yet. It's all right.
I like that little snippet review. Like,
All right.
It's all right.
It's the little teaser.
I had D&D last night.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. This
I've
is like my
never
first ever.
played D&D.
You never?
I've never played it.
It's fun. I'm starting to learn. I think it's like my 6th session. I'm starting to learn that like instead of playing a game where you just control where you go, it's more like, oh, I want to go do this and I want to move this way and I want to grab that and I want to. So it's like you have to be very vocal and imaginative, which it's fun. I can't roll like dice at all. Like I roll dice, I get like.
Don't they have cool rollers that you can get?
I roll the dice like literally. We've
bad
played
luck.
Just it's the worst luck.
Yeah.
And I've used like 2 different sites, and I've used like 2 different sets of dice with like our group, and we've had like 7 sessions. My average is like 2. Like literally, no lie, my average is like 2.
Maybe you need to go get your dice blessed or something.
Possibly. At this point, it's like mathematically impossible.
Or take them
roll
to
that
a priest and see if they can exorcise the demons within.
I know.
A lot of like in the board game scene, a lot of people. A lot of people don't like dice-based game because of that, because of like it's just
RNG
RNG. Like sometimes you can just get fucked and you have no control over what you're doing. I've only played D&D once, and I think I was really bad at it.
Seems like it'd be fun though.
As long as my RNG stays good in games like Destiny, then I'm okay.
So you've been playing a bunch of that too, though, right? Destiny.
I stopped completely after we were done making content for Achievement Hunter because
Just like waited out
they
the
put you
PC
off with those
version?
guys.
How was that?
Those guys put you off.
I mean, I was put in it, and oh my god, there's the 4th part of our raid video comes out, and I blew up. That was like my first blow up, like in a video.
Really?
I mean, have you really joined Achievement Hunter until they break you psychologically?
Oh no, I was broken. I was a broken, shattered
was it
man.
true anger?
It was.
Do you guys have to have like a reconciliation afterwards?
There was a small reconciliation, but it was more. It's Achievement Hunter, so I was just like, yeah, well, you know, this happens. Yeah.
Fair enough.
What have you been playing, Ashley?
Mostly Stardew,
All right.
to be honest, and South Park. But so I went to RTX Australia, or RTX Australia. I went to RTX London, which is different than PAX Australia, over the weekend. And can I just say that the Switch is the most phenomenal console to have on a plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
I
wonderful.
don't have one,
dude.
and I can definitely see that.
I have my travel pack, which goes with me everywhere, which consists of my big battery pack, which also comes in handy for like charging phones and stuff whenever I happen to need it. But I've got that, and I've got my USB-C cables, and I've got a wall plug. And so between like all those things, and it breaks down into like a nice little carrying case, I have whatever I need. So I can, if I don't have a plug, great, battery. If I do have a plug, and on a plane, these days, if an international flight, you generally have one. I played like 8 out of 10 hours on the plane was Stardew. And it was incredible. That's a miserable.
It's a perfect game for that, though.
Miserable
So
like
many
You could just do
Switches out
so
right
much.
now, and you're just like, I just want to play the one I've already played a lot.
Yes. And
If it's good,
No kidding.
extent of my friendship with Gavin consists of texting back and forth about our farms. We talk about nothing else. That's it. We talk about our farms. And I'm having a really, really lovely time doing exactly what I did last time I played the game. And there are so many people who don't understand the appeal of it, which is totally fine. Like Miles, for example,
it is a game of
does
busy
not
work.
see how that's fun. And I'm like, it depends what you want out of games. If you want like the adrenaline and like the intensity, it's not going to do that for you. It is not a game for a
I
mindless
mean,
learner.
there's some intensity with getting those, getting that relationship on with somebody else in that game. That slow burn.
It is very like, you're doing busy work, but if you like that sort of busy work, it's fun.
Yeah, I think of it as just like very chilled out. Like
it
it's a way
is.
that I kick back, I chill out, and I can play it for hours at a time. And it's my zen. So I did a whole bunch of that. And I've got Golf Story waiting in the
right
wings.
there?
But then I've also got a ton of other
Is there a
stuff
bug
waiting
in
the
there?
wings.
Bug fell in.
Oh, Adam, a bug fill in your drink?
Fine, I'll drink it anyway. No, I will not.
It's protein. Get that protein. So that's what I was playing. It's besides South Park. So
Did you play a little more Golf Story?
started it.
Oh, you started it. Okay.
But I'm not great with multitasking different games.
Man,
So it's
that
tough.
game, I was playing that. I was playing Stardew and SteamWorld Dig, and I was bouncing back and forth between them like every 45 minutes. And it got really confusing because like a guy in Golf Story was like, I need a red bandana. And then I was playing SteamWorld and I saw like behind a wall was a red bandana. I'm like, there's the thing I've been looking for. This is a different game.
Just see if you can transfer it across.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been a good week, but next week it starts to get really crazy. We have Destiny 2 is going to hit PC next week. Then we also have Assassin's Creed Origins on the 27th. We have Super Mario Odyssey on the 27th. We have Wolfenstein 2 on the 27th.
And Stranger Things.
And Stranger Things Season 2, which may not be a game, but you know what? We're going to count it regardless because boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
They're making a Stranger Things game, I think.
Are they?
I think they are, yeah.
I think it might be a board game, but I could be wrong.
Oh, okay.
It's something to do with Ego is making it, like the waffle people. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, you know what? I can raise
Waffle's
my
the
eyebrows all
board
I
game.
like, but the Dorito game on Xbox 360 was good. So.
What was the Burger King one for Xbox?
Oh gosh.
That was the one where you sneak around as
yeah,
sneaking.
Sneak King.
King.
There you go.
Oh man. All those
Remember
brand
that.
tie-ins.
Yep, exactly.
Good times. All right, well, should we get to some of the current events that have happened this
Yes.
week? Let's talk about the news.
Oh, thanks, man.
Okay, a couple headlines this week. First of all, Nintendo Switch had an update that added a couple of things that are very, very welcome. Activision has patented some crazy shit about microtransactions and loot boxes. And EA has shuttered Visceral Games, and they are shifting the Star Wars project to a studio known for sports titles. So there are
Sports titles, nice.
yeah, so there are a couple things to dig into. First of all, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch update because I want to. So it's like a 4.0.0.0 update hit overnight and added some things that frankly should have been on the console when it launched. But here I'll go down the list just very, very quickly. You can capture video on select games just natively.
That's great.
They've added new icons. Yes,
Oh,
very
okay.
exciting. From Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. You can be a dinosaur now if you like.
Okay.
Into it, feeling it? Yeah, it's whatever. But the big thing, you can transfer your user and save data between systems.
I don't know how I missed that. That's a really big deal.
That's a really big deal because up to this point, one of the most frustrating elements of the Switch has been there's no way to move your stuff. So if you were to, let's say you were sharing with family members and now you got your own Switch. Well, guess what? Everything you had to start over. Like you couldn't take your save games, you couldn't take anything. So
That's
you would
disappointing.
you could get your Nintendo account on the new Switch and you'd be able to download the games and everything after you deleted them from the first Switch. But your save games and everything were stuck. So they finally added the ability to transfer your stuff.
Is it one of those like you have to have the old system to transfer to the new system? Is there a way to like back it up? Like if I have my Legend of Zelda file and I don't, I just want to back it up to have it in a safe place. Like, is there a way to then take that from like a flash drive or something like that? And obviously, it doesn't have. I mean, there's a USB port on the dock.
Right. So let's see. What you have to do is everything has to be both systems have to be using this newest update, and you have to have a Nintendo account linked to the user account you want to transfer. Like if it's just a local profile, then it
Right.
doesn't transfer. It has to be a Nintendo account. There has to be room on the target console, so each Switch can have up to 8 profiles, so you can't have more than 7 on the system you're transferring to, which makes sense. And then you have to have enough free space, and then let's see what you do. Transfer.
Just from the diagram, it looks like it is something that you would.
It looks like it's local.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's local wireless.
Okay. I mean that solves part of the problem. At least you can transfer your save data. It doesn't solve the problem of like I want to back this stuff up to the cloud or something like that just to have it in safekeeping. But that's okay. I mean, it's a start. I mean, it should have been there from the start, like you're saying.
It
Yeah.
says here, both a source console and a target console are required to transfer user information and save data. So it doesn't look like there's any kind of intermediary device you can add in there.
Yeah, it looks like it's just local wireless, like the really similar system to what they use for like a local Mario Kart or what have you. Speaking of which, I actually at RTX London, I set up like a Mario Kart.
I saw
like
that- I
impromptu
saw
Mario
that
Kart.
picture, yeah.
Good fun. Nintendo though needs to sort out their local gameplay.
Yeah.
Because we could not get a single race where one or more people didn't get dropped.
Yeah, we had that problem when we were doing.
And
the
we're
first
in a
stream.
circle.
Yep.
We're all very close together, so they need to sort that out. But baby steps in the right direction. Very happy to have, at the very least, some sort of transfer. It'll be, there are additional things that I'm still waiting for, like it would be nice to be able to connect Bluetooth headphones to the system. Vita's been doing it for years. Don't tell me the Switch can't do it. It is capable. Okay, and then let's see, done. They also added the ability to pre-purchase games on the Nintendo eShop. Up to this point, it's been coming soon, but you couldn't buy it until it actually released.
Does that include a preload? Because if not, there's no real point.
That does include preload.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Preloads are everything nowadays.
Preloads are just very, very helpful.
Yeah.
One for spreading out the load on new game releases, because if you can preload a game,
The
then
bandwidth load.
Oh, okay.
yes, on systems, because if everyone is trying to tackle the servers at the exact same time to get the
Yeah.
games downloaded, it's always very, very frustrating to be super excited to be there when it's ready to unlock and then be stuck downloading at a trickle because everyone is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So preloading is
If you're a
fantastic.
content creator, streamer, you want to immediately play that when everyone else is playing it right away.
Exactly.
Because everything's time sensitive nowadays with content. So.
Yeah, so that's all really good stuff. And then there's smaller things too. They updated their news channel. You can match your software versions with local users, which may help, honestly, with things like the connections between players for co-op and such, potentially. But that's smaller stuff. The big thing is definitely the headline of finally transferring stuff, yay! And then, further in news, Activision's new patent. Have you heard about this yet?
No.
No.
Okay, so in 2015,
I'm scared, though.
Activision filed for a patent, and October 17th of this year, that patent was granted. The patent is for a system and method for driving microtransactions in multiplayer video games. You're gonna love this. For example, and these are quotes from the patent itself for examples of like implementations for this system.
Oh no.
For example, in one implementation, the system may include a microtransaction engine that arranges matches to influence game-related purchases. For instance, the microtransaction engine may match a more expert or marquee player with a junior player to encourage the junior player to make game-related purchases of items possessed or used by the marquee player. A junior player may wish to emulate the marquee player by obtaining weapons or other items used by the marquee player.
I did hear about this. I heard about it in relation to Star Wars Battlefront. You're gonna have like a bunch of people with sweet fucking like skins matched with a bunch of schlebs who didn't want to spend any money on the game, and then those schlebs are gonna become kings by buying stuff.
Well, the good news with it
So
being
lame.
Battlefront is that that's an EA title. Activision now owns this patent, so if we want to look on a bright side,
Wait,
a
so
silver lining.
Does that negate what they're doing with Battlefront? I had definitely heard that in relation to Battlefront 2.
Well, it depends if Activision wants to go after EA for infringing on their new patent. But that's not all. In any particular example, the junior player may wish to become an expert sniper in a game, like as determined by their player profile. The microtransaction engine may match the junior player with a player that's a highly skilled sniper in the game. In this manner, the junior player may be encouraged to make game-related purchases, such as a rifle or other item used by the marquee player. And then
gonna be sweet in Destiny.
they've dropped all that sweet dough on their new sniper rifle or whatever. Well, For example, if the player purchased a particular weapon, the microtransaction engine may match the player in a gameplay session in which the particular weapon is highly effective, giving the player an impression that the particular weapon was a good purchase.
Holy
Wait, purchased a weapon?
This may encourage the player to make future purchases to achieve similar gameplay results.
Yikes.
Wait, like
Holy
purchase an
fucking
actual
yikes.
weapon? It's not a cosmetic, like it's an actual weapon?
This is an example.
These are examples.
But they're trying to encourage people to. They're trying to say like we're going to give you not only an advantage, but then we're going to match you against people that have a disadvantage to make
so that you
like
feel
a
really
badass.
cool, but then the person on the other side of that exchange becomes the junior player getting trampled.
If I was every
so they
other
want to
person-
buy what you've got.
Well,
I'm someone who spends money on microtransactions sometimes, and if I was ever that other person, I'd fucking shelve that game forever. Or I would go trade it in, because I never do that, but just as like a stamp. I'd be like, fuck this game. I'm getting rid of it.
It like ruins just the whole ecosystem of like loot. You know what I mean? Like in Destiny, if you're working for the loot as opposed to just
Absolutely.
being able to buy the loot or just, and also at the same time, if you're a certain player of a certain caliber and it's matchmaking is first off already shitty in just a ton of games. But if you're a certain player of a certain caliber, like what if you're doing trials, you have a good sniper rifle and they match you, I don't know, not necessarily trials because you have to go in with the team, but you're playing a multiplayer game or it's like ranked or something, you have a good weapon and then they put you in with someone who they're trying to show the new loot to and they're
that's the point.
not up to the caliber. Like how do you balance that along with balancing the ranks?
This is getting rid of balance, dude.
This basically, it basically throws the even playing field out the window.
I've never boycotted like a developer or games really, but if this started to become, if this like prevailed and became like a commonplace thing in Activision games, like I'd have to just stop playing them because like you have to vote with your wallet. That is absolute nonsense.
Well, a couple of important notes. Activision has released a statement saying that this was an exploratory. Let's see if I can find that. It's an exploratory patent filed by their R&D department, and it is not currently implemented in any games. So they did release that statement, but they also don't have to disclose if they make changes to implement it in future games. And they have some very big titles where that could come into play. Let's keep in mind that they do own Blizzard. And that means the Overwatches of the world. That means they've got the Call of Duties of the world. They've got the Destinies of the world. Now, Destiny, Deej, the community manager for Bungie, came straight out and said, not in Destiny 2.
Okay.
So there are already developers associated with Activision like doing their best to distance themselves from this patent. But the trouble is they have the patent. Like this is a thing that they clearly researched and designed and thought, this sounds like the best idea. Let's secure the patent on it. And they also don't have to disclose because there's no regulation of any kind if and when they do decide to implement it in any current or future titles.
It's just unfortunate because like it's like Activision peeking through that door, and then now other developers are also going to take a little peek, and they should just stay shut. Like,
well, and
completely.
it also erodes any sort of trust you have with your gameplay systems because knowing that this is there, knowing that they actively researched and patented something like this, means that you will always have to wonder when you're playing a game if this system is in play. I almost wonder if publishers already realize that this isn't a sustainable, ongoing thing, and so they're trying to get what they can out of it while they can.
What's unfortunate too is I believe I read an article within the last month about like Activision making an insane amount of money off of in-game purchases.
Oh, insane amount.
Yeah, and it's just like, well, you're making, I get it, like money makes the world go around and everything, but like you're already making so much money. I just can't see, because the people who are going to spend money on those microtransactions are the people who have played so many hours, right? And then I get it, you're trying to like lure these new players in, but new players, I don't know, like new players should be playing with new players, and that's how the way matchmaking systems should work. You should be matched up on your level or your elo or your skill set, not mix up the bag like that.
Well, it's also tricky because you have these gameplay systems that rely on whales. They are designed to inconvenience the majority in order to profit off the minority, if that makes sense. Like there are, let's say 20% of people who play the game decide to spend on microtransactions. Whether that's loot boxes, whether it ends up being directly purchasing guns, whatever it is. There are a lot of people who will say, just don't buy the microtransactions. And most people won't. But that minority will spend so much that it more than makes up for it. And that's why publishers and and anyone who implements these sort of systems continue to do it, because you don't, like, most people can boycott microtransactions. Most people can refuse to have anything to do with them. But those people who don't give a shit will still justify the implementation of those mechanics, even if it's just a tiny minority.
As long as it stays cosmetic, it can't go past being cosmetic.
I mean, there are already microtransactions that are not cosmetic. There's a bug here.
Yeah, for example, with Battlefront 2, there are you can get the star cards.
The different
and
levels of star cards, yeah.
there are different star cards that you can get in the loot boxes, which you can purchase with real money, that do affect the actual gameplay. It may not be to an enormous degree. Some of them are, some of them won't be huge, but the point is that they're no longer just cosmetic.
Which is unfortunate, and I don't know, it's sad that already I'm sitting here, it's like, okay, it's not just cosmetic, fine, like, I shouldn't agree with that, And on top of that, I'm like, well, this is Battlefront, it's more of a casual shooter, it's not like there's a rank system or anything like that, fine. And then it's like, where do I draw the line in my mind? And now it's just like, I'm just in, it sucks.
Very
I'm
slippery
confused.
slope. Like, they get you used to cosmetic ones, and you're like, now you're used to it. Now that's just a normal part of the sort of gaming environment and ecosystem. Is like, there are microtransactions, but it's cosmetic, so it's fine. And then that's the worry with any kind of system like that, is just very gradually implementing these elements that they're not pay to win. They're just pay for little, like even a 1% edge, a 5% edge, whatever it is, to get used to that, and then it continues to tumble. That's one of the real concerns.
Yeah.
So that's I'm
scary.
a bit worried about where that's going. But it's not the only sad news this week, because also EA has shuttered Visceral Games. And the Star Wars project they were working on, that's the one that was being headed by Amy Hennig, who previously worked on the Uncharted titles. And God, they had so many just huge talent. Kim Swift had gone to Visceral to work on it. So she had worked Kim had worked on Portal, and there was Jade Raymond was GM for Visceral, also helping to work on it. Although she also runs Motive, so that studio is now being shut down. The Star Wars project is being completely reworked and moved to EA Vancouver, which is a studio primarily known for working on, like, the NHL games, and they've done some stuff on, like, FIFA and NBA and a whole bunch of stuff like that.
They're going to pivot this into a hutball game?
Well, specifically, they're pivoting
Star Wars
to
ball.
games as a service.
Cool, man.
So the Patrick Sutherland this week released a statement making the announcement and said, our Visceral studio has been developing an action-adventure title set in the Star Wars universe. In its current form, it was shaping up to be a story-based linear adventure game. Doesn't that sound terrible? Just awful.
Man.
Almost like what you would expect if you were to hire the director of Uncharted. Maybe. And apparently that's not the direction they want to go. It says it has become clear that to deliver an experience players will want to, this is important, come back to and enjoy for a long time to come. We needed to pivot the design.
Yeah, we're going to have trouble selling microtransactions on games that are single player, so having them multiplayer really makes it easier.
Yeah. So the game's now been delayed. They said while we had originally expected this game to launch late in our fiscal year 2019, we're now looking at a new time frame we'll announce in the future. So the game has no window, nothing. It's being basically torn down and rebuilt. There was an email that they sent to staff that said, we'll use much of the work that has been done to date by Visceral. The assets of Ragtag that have already been built will be the foundation of this new game.
So
The assets.
Ragtag being the original.
Ragtag, the project name.
Yeah.
So models, maybe? Some sweet textures.
Textures, man.
Assets, to be
But it
honest.
sounds like whatever that game was is now dead.
Yeah.
That is a huge bummer for everyone on that team and for anyone that wanted to see a story-based Star Wars game.
Or anyone who wanted to see any future Dead Space titles.
I was just about to say,
Yeah,
for
that's
me, I was more so just waiting that one E3, they just sneak in, you see Visceral on the screen, it's like, oh shit, maybe some Dead Space.
Dead Space 3 went kind of awry, but
It was like Michael Bay.
I saw a post that
Awry.
said Dead Space 2 cost
So much
$60
action.
million to make, and they sold 4 million copies, and yet they didn't make money on it.
Because of marketing.
Because
they
of
said
marketing.
they said it was a marketing spend thing. Yes.
It's crazy.
So it's a pretty sad day for everyone involved, everyone who was looking forward to this title. It sounds very much like a vote of no confidence on EA's part for single-player linear narratives.
So, on a do you if aside from a studio being shut down and the game being shut down, would you want to play an MMO light Destiny-ish Star Wars game?
I mean, if I'm being totally honest, I wouldn't be against it. I like the idea of maybe not even Destiny 2-ish, but if I was to look at something that is an open world single player experience, something that's more like a Skyrim or a Fallout, but something that's set in the Star Wars universe, that could be pretty cool.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I'm not excited about the idea of another Star Wars MMO light. But I also I don't want a studio to shut down to make that, especially when they're already making a Star Wars single player game, which would probably have been incredible.
I guess I just don't understand why they have to be mutually exclusive. I feel like you can have a single player linear narrative game and over here, and you can have this open world experience if you want to have both of them.
They haven't been mutually exclusive in the past. We've had both.
Right.
We've had Star Wars MMOs and Star Wars single player games.
They have the license for, as far as we know, until 2023 for all Star Wars titles. So, they would have time to have put this game out and also work on another one if they wanted to. But it sounds tricky. Now, what they're not saying and what they wouldn't say probably is maybe the game just wasn't shaping up well.
Yeah.
They don't want to say oh, this thing was just a whole hot mess.
Yeah. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors.
Right, but what they say publicly sounds like they have no interest in these linear experiences anymore because they can't keep people coming back again and again and again.
Yeah.
And that's where they see the industry going.
Make it up to me by giving me a Star Wars pod racing game. I'd be all about that.
What's wrong with you?
I love pod racing.
What's wrong with you, Alfred? What is wrong with you?
Pod Racer was incredible.
My bar is just getting set real low now. I have no faith.
Did you not like the pod racing games? The pod racing
sure.
games?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It was
There's also
great.
one in the arcade where you got to sit.
Yeah, you can sit there and just and then
The
you
arcade
pod might
ones are cool
overheat
'cause
too,
you-
and it's
you
like,
get the
shit.
pod, and that's
Yeah.
pretty sweet. But I'm
downplay
pretty
those
bummed
games. They're great.
about that.
Well, I hope all those developers find a new home that's going to be good to them.
That's yeah.
Yeah, there will almost certainly be layoffs of some sort. EA did say that they're working to shuffle as many developers as possible to other studios and other projects, but that can involve relocation.
Yeah.
They still are going to have to go through these application processes and interviews for these other positions at these other studios on these other projects. And while some of them, many of them will end up at EA's other studios, not all of them will. I think it's too optimistic to hope that no one loses their jobs as a result of this studio closure.
Well, one of the more incredible things about this industry is that when a studio shuts down, you see post after post of other studios saying hey, anyone from Visceral, we have
hit us
spots
up.
for you. Yeah.
Which I do love, because their layoffs are very, very common in this industry. And I did see posts from 2K. I saw posts from Sledgehammer. It was really it's nice to see developers reaching out.
Yeah.
So bit of a low point for news this week. Some unfortunate stuff
some
happened.
grim news.
Yeah. And if you have any thoughts on everything that's happening in video games, if you need a place to put your thoughts, well, consider a website. This episode of Glitch Please is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, online store, whatever it is, make your next move with Squarespace. Squarespace offers beautiful, award-winning designer templates. You can create a beautiful website or online store with an award-winning template, and it's all got an all-in-one platform. There's nothing to install, patch, upgrade, ever. All taken care of. Now, they've made it easy to set up or transfer your domain on Squarespace. Instead of working with multiple vendors to maintain your online presence, you're able to manage all of your domain and billing settings with Squarespace and take advantage of their easy-to-use DNS interface. It's never been easier to sell products or services online, and Squarespace allows you to manage your products, orders, and inventory easily. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com. Go to squarespace.com/glitchplease to get 10% off your first purchase. That's squarespace.com/glitchplease for 10% off your first purchase. It's good to have like your own website and your own like corner of the internet. Alfredo, did I ever tell you how I got into my first E3?
No.
I made a website.
Oh. And then you're like,
I made a website and did like game news and stuff, and that was my credentials to get in. Also managed to get a couple of my no good friends in. I'd be like, you need to like write 2 things on this because you have to have them
so that way you
to
have some
submit for
type
your
of-
credentials. Yeah, and that's how we all went to E3. We were rolling in a pack. It was really cool. It was and I never would have guessed when I was doing that. I was like, oh man, I mostly used it as a programming exercise. I was teaching myself Perl at the time and and SQL, and ended up now look what I do for a living.
oh, wow. I remember my first E3, Tim and I went down to LA, and it was like a PlayStation event during the week of E3, but outside of the conference. And there was rumors of they might let you in E3. So you went there, we waited like 8 hours in line, went to the event, it was a couple hours, and then they're like, all right, cool, all done. And then they came back. I was like, oh, one more thing. You guys are all going to E3. We were like, yes! And they brought us all to the conference and everything. And I was like, that was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was your first impression of E3 when you walked in those doors?
Oh, I was so excited. I was just like, I get to play all these games early, and I get to. I didn't care about. I didn't care about standing in line though. And now I'm just like, I'll wait, and there's probably a beta for it somewhere, and I'm so jaded now.
A lot of times I find that unless you're going for the specific hands-on experience, which does involve either appointments made months in advance or lines and all of that hassle. A lot of people, I think, at home get almost a better E3 experience because all of that information is more manageable.
And a nice package too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're at the event, you're walking around and you're seeing stuff, and that's pretty cool. Like there's nothing to replace
The
the
atmosphere
experience
is awesome.
of hands-on and seeing just the circus of E3. But as far as like getting actual information about stuff, it's easier to do if you're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we have a couple of things to talk about that have been shown at recent E3s. First of all, let's talk about South Park. All right, so the Fractured But Whole, the follow-on to The Stick of Truth, has come out. It's released. I've been playing it. You've been playing it?
I'm playing it.
You've not got a chance to play it yet, right?
touched it yet.
Okay, so it's
So many games.
so did you play Stick of Truth?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a very different gameplay experience from Stick of Truth, where I would describe Stick of Truth's combat. It's like it was a turn-based RPG, right? This is more like. Did you play Mario Rabbids?
No.
Okay, but you know that it was sort of like very XCOM-y. It's a very
like
friendly
Fire
intro
Emblem
to turn-based.
It has.
This is Fire Emblem Light.
It's
essentially.
lanes.
Okay, I was
It
about
has
to say,
lanes and grids.
Okay, so like Fire
Yeah.
Emblem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it takes the kind of map that you would expect in a Fire Emblem game, but Fire Emblem maps are enormous.
they're
they're
huge. This is just, like,
sprawling across
small in the
landscapes.
streets in
Yeah,
a classroom.
this is very, very tiny, very contained, but it is almost a way to introduce that mechanic in a way that a lot of people won't even realize what sort of game they're necessarily playing, because they're like, oh, whatever, it's South Park, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tactics-based RPG. So you got your grid. Your different attacks will have like different, basically like patterns of squares they'll hit on the grid, and then That's so you have to be moving your whole party around, maneuver them, try not to block your own shots, and so on. It's a lot of fun.
It is. I thought it was going to be a fantasy game because I haven't looked at any of the preview material because the last game was a fantasy game, medieval fantasy. This is more of like a superhero fantasy. Not saying I'm disappointed. I just like wasn't expecting it.
They do a fun thing at the very beginning of the game too, which is they actually make the transfer from like wizards and fantasy into superheroes. They're like, come on.
They're just like, we're just done playing it.
You start.
Yeah, you're the king at first. You're running through this like medieval battlefield. You fight a dragon, and then like they're like, where is the wizard? And that's Cartman. Cartman like shows up in his coon outfit. He's like, we have to go play heroes or like whatever.
He's like, you losers, we're not playing this anymore. Now we're playing heroes. And takes off, and like now that's what you do.
It's it's a really fun game. Like I spent most of my time just exploring and like solving little mini puzzles, and just fighting anyone I could fight because the combat's pretty fun, and trying to find upgrades. The game does a smart thing where all of the yellow handles are things you can interact with, so you can immediately know off the bat like if you can walk up to something and touch it. There are secrets to find all over the world. The one thing this game does that is like extremely appreciated is if you see something that you want to get but you don't know how to get to it, if you spend like a couple seconds trying to get to it, it will say you need someone else in your party to help you do this. Like you can't do this yet. Like you're not fucking around like trying to find like you're not pixel hunting trying to find something to move to climb on to get the bag. It'll just say you can't do it yet, which is great. The walking, it's a little slow. I wish there was like a run button. Because sometimes walking around, there is a fast travel system eventually, but even that is like pretty spaced out.
It comes in pretty early in the game, though.
It does. It does.
Within the first hour, you unlock fast travel.
But it's spaced out. I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world, but man, that game is funny and like has the South Park humor down to its South Park game. It feels like you're playing.
Yeah, I was about to say, how does the humor hold up?
Yeah, it's weird. It's been a couple of years since I watched South Park. I say a couple of years. What season are they on now? Not even sure. It's been. Let's just say it's been like 8+ years probably since I regularly watched South Park.
More than a couple. That's a lot.
Yeah. And so coming back into it was a little bit of like, oh, right, for me, because I forgot how much.
It's like crude humor.
Like bathroom humor and all that. Like your superpowers are like, oh, it's all fart based. And, or like loogies or some of the, you have anal powers and the enemies,
awesome.
like the sixth graders will fill up bags of pee and throw them at you, and the elderly people will fight with colostomy bags, and just like it's disgusting.
To give you an idea of the humor, I went to Mr. Garrison. He's like, okay, what gender are you? And I was like,
that was a good impression.
Thanks. I was like, I don't know what gender I am, so I put other. And he like called my parents. He's like, do you know that your son has no gender? And he's like, oh, you do. And then I left the school, and as soon as I left the school, 3 rednecks rolled up and was like, it's one of those non-genders.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Like, beating me with like bottles and shit. It's fucking awesome.
I need this game.
That's a clever way for them to
Terrible
retcon as well, because in Stick of Truth, it's just assumed that you're a boy.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of this game, they're calling you the king. Everything is like let's say it's a he pronoun. It's just assumed the exact same thing. And then you sit down with Mr. Garrison to talk, and that's how they retcon.
Changes everything.
So you can be like, oh, you're a girl. We just kind of assumed. And then calls your parents and is like, are you aware that this is a girl? And then your parents like, yes. And so that's how they sort of get that.
I like it.
Like figure
it's like
that out.
a smooth transition into everything that you worked for in the first game into the second game. It's nice.
It's a game that I want. Like, I've only played 4 or 5 hours of it, but I can't stop thinking about it. I want to keep going back and playing it. I haven't found anything really inherently wrong with it. It's mostly just been fun, and it plays like every turn is really funny. Like there's constantly dialogue within combat. Every character you run into has something interesting. There's a weird thing where you're taking selfies with people. Like,
selfies how you like increase your.
It's your influence.
Your social level. Yeah, and using Coonstagram.
It's very like on the nose.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, so you have to. Like,
what do you get out of it though? Like
you get followers. You literally like your influencer levels increase, and you can take selfies with more people. And I think you get some sort of like XP rewards, and eventually you get other rewards.
Okay.
Yeah, and like there are some people who will they will refuse to selfie with you until you've got a certain number of followers already. So they sort of, have those like that stair stepping. Like you have to find the.
It's like in real life.
You have to find the kid going through the trash who will take a picture with anyone, and then you can get up to like kids who are like, I'm not going to selfie with you until you are more important. And then you can get those guys.
That's pretty.
The game has humor in like every nook and cranny. Like the doors in the game have pin pads, but each pin pad is represented by like a word. So like the first one you run into, it can be like, go fuck yourself, like when you push the buttons. Mm-hmm. And eventually you'll find like somewhere nearby you'll find like a phrase that's the phrase
like
you have to input. But I found another door and I was like, let me see if I can figure this out. Like I was in the church and it was like a simple one. It was something like Jesus saves or something like that. And it was like, that's right. And then like I got a little pop-up from Cartman. It was like, you're gonna stop fucking cheating and you're gonna fucking play the game. And like it wouldn't open the door. I was like, are you serious?
Oh my.
So then I found like the actual, like I found it in the game and then I can go and input it. But it's really funny. That game is hilarious, dude.
Damn. I gotta pick it up.
And there's references throughout, like, to stuff that happens in the show, just all over the place.
Yeah. Combat-wise is, like, you keep unlocking new friends, like, to play with you, which you also will control their moves. Mm-hmm. And they all play totally differently, and eventually you'll get a hybrid class, which will, you can slot in different classes' moves. And it's really fun, man. Like, the supers are all over the top. I think my favorite one, is Craig's, where you send out a guinea pig and he fucks shit up.
Oh my God, war pig.
I think
war guinea pig.
Token gets a huge mech.
Yeah. Some of them are way better than others.
Yeah, but they're all like, I like the way they handle this, which is like, it's very clear, similar to Stick of Truth, that it's all like imagination and they've all agreed to play by certain rules. One of the first people that you fight in the game is like, they just start trying to make up their own rules, and the game rules change.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's kids that are playing, pretend, and you always get that fucking kid who goes in and tries to change everything because they're not winning.
Like, I'm not dead.
Yeah, and so
you
get
now.
that.
It's like,
and
no, I have full health again.
Yeah, and the actual mechanics change as a result of that. To reflect that, like everyone's sort of making this up as they go along. But for the most part, everyone's agreed on these rules and it's a lot of fun. So I enjoy the game.
Are you gonna try to play through? I think this is a game I'm gonna play through all of it.
Yeah, I think I'll finish it. I think I want it on Switch so that I can take it with me.
I feel like that way about every game. This game is one that is like any 2D game I play, I'm like, this should be on Switch. Especially Cuphead. I was like, I should play this in bed.
Yep.
Like, but yeah. Everything about this game I like. I want to play more of it.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot in the way of criticisms about the game so far. It's exactly what you expect it to be. I think it's pretty cool that it's a tactics light game, because if it's the sort of genre that you would normally find intimidating, you don't worry about it with a game like this. It's very straightforward, but still manages to have a lot to do, like a lot of options depending on how you want to play. So I quite liked it. I think I will continue liking it.
I'm gonna try to breeze through it because there's so much else coming out in a week.
Yeah, you gotta finish it this weekend.
Gotta find the time. That's the big issue here, is finding the time to play all these giant games.
Yeah. Another giant game that came out, so that's Shadow of War. You've both been playing that. I haven't, so you get to tell me all about it. Cool?
Yeah. How far have you gotten in it?
7 hours.
7 hours? Okay, we're about the same then.
All right, Middle-earth Shadow of War has come out. This is the sequel to Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. It's basically a follow-on. You play the same character, Talion, who's got an elephant inside him, Celebrimbor, and
best name, Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor. And if you thought this was canon, nope.
Yeah, it's like between. Is it before Hobbit?
I think it's between Hobbit and when Lord of the Rings proper starts.
But it's all just.
But it's imagine the Hobbit happened, and then but before you get to Lord of the Rings, the whole universe just took a left turn and decided to go off in another direction.
Man, it is a fun game. It is a lot like the first game, but if you want a thematic like Lord of the Rings game. Holy shit, it's so good.
So the thing that set Shadow of Mordor apart from a lot of other sort of open world RPG action games coming out at the time was the Nemesis system.
Yeah.
The Nemesis system, there were specific named enemies, and if you came into combat with them and they survived, they would remember you. And they would continue up their social ranks, and they would remember you. They would hold a grudge. They would bear the scars.
They would get more powerful.
They would get more powerful. And then if they managed to kill you, they'd get a promotion because you can absolutely die in the game, and you get resurrected, but they still killed you. So the way it handles that is kind of like weird and funky, but that's all thanks to Celebrimbor. Yeah. And that's been refined in Shadow of War.
Yeah, I don't feel like I've gotten far enough to see how it's changed. I know there are armies involved now, but I'm only seeing the Nemesis system as it is. It's still, if you didn't like the first game, I don't think you'll like this one. It polishes a lot of things about it, but
it's very similar.
It is very much like the maps are more like you immediately are in a map that is completely different than the first game. It is a big city, and it's awesome. And it's all under siege, and there's enemies everywhere and all that. But it is very much like you're shown the map. There are a bajillion icons, and most of the icons are sort of like just a box to check off. Like they're fun to do. Like you kill a captain, or you collect like a symbol that will eventually lead you to a door. But most of it is like checking off boxes. If you're in the mood to like check off boxes and kill orcs.
So if you're a collector,
right,
it's great.
It's a great game. As far as like actual missions go, there's no. At least as far as I've seen, there hasn't been any like side missions aside. Like there's just the story missions that will actually have some structure and they like give you objectives.
And anything outside that, though, you can just roam around the world doing whatever you like.
There's a lot of things that derail you. Like you run into like one of the orcs, and then an animation will happen, and you want to get into a fight with him, or you just want to go collect different things. So even though I haven't really like you were saying. Haven't really run into any side missions. You get sidetracked really easily.
You get sidetracked.
Yeah.
But if you're looking, if like you were really fond of the Two Towers or like those PS2 Lord of the Rings games where it would like take you through these giant set pieces, like now you're at a Battle of Helm's Deep and you're gonna go through these. Like it's not that way at all. Like there is no structure to the things you're doing. And if you like an unstructured game, it's great. And I'm sort of back and forth on it. Like I really like everything I'm doing, but at a time I'm like, okay, I've been playing in this one map for like 5 hours. Do I keep killing captains, or I just go on to the next thing and progress the story?
So if you were to compare it to like the positive elements, like if you liked Skyrim, this would be a good one. If you liked Shadow of Mordor, obviously.
I wouldn't say even like Skyrim. I think more almost Far Cry-y, and it's definitely, obviously there's a lot of comparisons to Assassin's Creed in the way that you climb and move around like that, but it has a lot of the Assassin's Creed elements where it's like you have boxes, like it's a Ubisoft system almost, where it's like you have boxes to kill a guy, you have boxes to collect treasure, you have boxes to do X thing that will eventually net you some reward.
And Shadow of Mordor was also very frequently compared to the Batman Arkham games in that way.
Yeah, that's a pretty apt
combat
comparison.
system-wise is very similar.
Definitely. You know, I like the combat in this game better, and I know it's the same combat system, but I think it's the fact that it's very visceral and you're actually killing people.
Yeah.
And like.
So you're saying Batman's a pussy?
Not killing people.
It's a different combat. Yeah. It's just like, more like Batman's more gadget-based. We get to throw around and do cool gadgets. Here, just like, oh, I'm taking your leg off. Yeah, I'm cutting your arm off. I'm actually going to kill you.
When you do like a brutal like head chop off move, it's just like so fucking awesome. Like it feels so right in that world.
And you get the slow like bullet time.
It does slow down a little bit. Not that slow down, but it's slow. I'm trying to think of what else. I don't know if, like I played a lot of Shadow of Mordor, but it's been so long that I don't remember if the movement is the same. But in this game, the movement feels awesome. Like I feel so agile. Like you have right off the bat, you have a sprinting move where you can run at like 50 miles an hour for like a good like 30 seconds.
Yep.
Then pretty soon after that, you get a double jump, and the double jump lets you leap like at least 100 feet.
That's a very big jump.
Yeah. You never take fall damage. Like. If you want, this is the other thing, is like if you're in a tough combat situation.
So it sounds it's designed pretty sandboxy in that way.
It's very sandboxy. It almost feels like Crackdown not quite as like that.
Yeah, in terms of
exaggerated.
like you just kind of your movement, you feel invincible.
Yeah. If you don't want to be in a situation, you just run away from it.
Yeah, it fits in perfectly well because like the scale of the areas that you're in are pretty large, and if you want to break off to go collect certain things, they're pretty far apart. So the movement doesn't feel too overly powerful. In fact, you're just kind of thankful that you're able to get from point A to point B really quickly with minimal effort. And the nice thing too is just like the different areas are like the 5 different areas are really different. Like you'll be in the snow area or the swamps, and it's just like this nice change of pace here and there that you can just go and shift between.
I do appreciate like lots of different biomes.
That
Yeah.
first game was like you had 2.
It was just
and the
like
first like
2
30 hours of the game was like gray.
mountain passes
Then you
and
went
stuff
into
like that.
like light green. This one is like
Yeah.
I love the first area especially because it's like a big city, and the second area is sort of like this orcish like orcish little villages and things like that you're sort of raiding. It's a fun game. I don't think it's for everyone. I definitely don't think if you don't like a non-structured game, it's for you. I do feel like there are times where I wish I could just have like I wish there was just like little missions where I can go on, like it's like the Battle of Helm's Deep. Like I just want a giant like set piece. But the game itself is kind of a set piece if you treat it that way.
Yeah. What was your experience like, Alfredo?
I mean, it was just very similar. Being a Lord of the Rings fan, I was just happy to be in the atmosphere, you know? And then from there, being able to do whatever I want. It's difficult because I've kind of gotten to the point in my life where if I'm playing a single player game, I just want it to be very linear. And here I was just like, oh man, I'm going here. Oh, I want to go do this and then do that. And then I started killing war chiefs, and I'm just like, whoa, like, do I need to be doing this? And so it's very much unstructured, where you can progress through the story, but it's going to pull you in so many different directions. Sometimes it feels like you're getting pulled in directions that have no meaning, like just endlessly killing the like different orcs, especially if they're like the first in line like soldiers. It's just like, what am I killing these guys
It takes
for?
one shot to
but
kill
I'm
them.
running into them and there's an animation and it's like, I gotta kill you. So I do like the fact that even though there are set pieces in the game where you have to sneak around and things like that, I'm not a very stealth person in video games, so I don't like being forced to do stealth. I like the fact that if I choose to, get down to the nitty-gritty, I can interrogate other orcs, like lower tier orcs, and get informations on like the higher tier orcs and what their strengths and weaknesses are. But that's not necessary, right? I can just go in and then just try brute force or try just throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. So I like that variety.
How do you feel about the idea of, in this game, building an army? Whereas before, the Nemesis system was used pretty much exclusively to keep track and like basically weaponize revenge, which is very, very cool. Like the first game, you could also avenge your friends like by killing orcs that had killed them, and that was really cool. And then it would keep track of all the different orcs that remembered you, and you would have your nemesis. But now you're also going beyond that, and you're sort of becoming a leader of orcs.
I like the idea of it. It's not presented early. Like I think I'm like you. I'm like 7-8 hours into the game.
Do you feel like they should have introduced this mechanic earlier? I mean, 7-8 hours in, you should be to a sort of new feature introduction.
If you're new
by
to
this
the
point.
game, I think it's paced well. But if you've played the game, like everything I'm going through is in terms of what I know, is very similar to the first game. Like there's not. I haven't I want that new stuff already. But
Well, the thing is that we're 7 or 8 hours in, and it's just his experience for 7 or 8 hours is different than mine because we don't know how.
yeah, you could spend your whole 8 hours in the first area.
Yeah, you could have been just walking around doing a bunch of things. I just got to the beginning of it. I'm very happy that I have that ability to kind of create like a group, because remember in the first one I was able to twist the minds of orcs. I was like, well, why don't I just get a whole party of them, and then just start taking over.
Get your crew.
Yeah, so I like the fact that it's expanded. It's fun, but if you didn't like the first one, this is just more of that.
So do you feel like this creating an army, having the additional sort of locations, do you think that is a good enough, is that everything you want from an experience for a full second game?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if you like the first game, this is definitely going to satisfy. Everything in it feels extremely well polished, and all of it feels good. The combat feels awesome. The one complaint I have is in combat when you're trying to target a specific orc for an execution. Sometimes you are trying to fight your nemesis, and you're in like just a mosh pit of other orcs, and you hit your execution. You only have one of them, and it like picks the guy to your right instead of the guy right in front of you, and it fucks you. That's my only complaint. But everything else feels great, and this is totally spoilery.
And you haven't had, so they did, the game's taken a bit of flack for having microtransactions.
Yes.
But have you run into any point at which you feel compelled or encouraged in that direction by the game?
No, I mean, because of the fact that it's a single player experience, right? I feel like I'd be more compelled if someone else is running around with all this awesome gear that they like bought through loot boxes or things like that, you know? Or if like, oh, he's got a cool cosmetic. But since I'm just experiencing this by myself, I just don't know what loot is better and what's not until I get it in my hands. Yeah. So since it's a single player experience, I haven't had issues with it.
The game does drive you to the marketplace there are these online vendetta missions where it's like, oh, this orc killed Alfredo, go and avenge him, and you go there and like you kill the orc, and it's like, you got a chest, why don't you go to the marketplace and open it up, man? And it's like sort of buried in the marketplace, so it's like, here's the marketplace, there's all this other stuff, there's your chest up there, and you open it, it's like, here's 2 shitty items you won't use, but look at the stuff you can buy. I don't care.
Yeah.
So it's a minor annoyance.
It is. I do hear from almost everyone I've talked to who's played the 4th chapter of this game that it drags on in that last chapter.
Yeah, that's
and
the
remedy
feedback.
for that is probably
The feedback that I've heard is that it can be like a 20 to 50 hour grind at the end game, which is mitigated largely by just dropping some extra money on loot boxes.
Right. Which.
And that's is that for, because I think I've heard, is it for gear that you can actually
It is,
drop?
you get chests. You get chests of gear.
That give you actually like different loot.
I think the ones you buy for real money give you like higher tier gear, yeah. Is right.
So.
But the game does give you like ample resources to get like, every area has like a secret door that you open. And that door will just contain legendary gear for you. And then there are war chiefs that have legendary or epic gear. Like, you do have the means to get that stuff in game. But apparently it's a grind at the end.
Yeah, but still.
You know, it's a super bummer, dude.
It's one of those things where you can't just be like, well, you can't have pay to win in multiplayer. But it's okay in single player. You gotta have to have a blanket statement for all games.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, it is.
It's tricky. You know, like I understand that a lot of publishers and developers are looking at ways to sort of make up for the fact that they haven't technically increased the price of games in a very long time. It's been
a while.
Well, I remember, so when they moved from Xbox to like Xbox 360 and like PS2 to PS3, the games went from like 50 to 60. And they haven't really moved from there, but that's also to some degree lip service these days, because every single game is going to have like a season pass or have this additional content coming down the line, and that's how they make up the difference. So, effectively games are still like $90. And now they're trying to do these microtransactions as well to sort of cover the fact that apparently selling 4 million copies on a $60 million development budget isn't enough to turn a profit technically, although that could also be Hollywood accounting, depending on how they want to get extra creative with their numbers. But it's becoming pretty pervasive when you're having these purchasable loot boxes in single player games as well.
Yeah,
so
scary times. And I was hoping we wouldn't get to that point where it was more pay to win. Because I know it's just everyone's like, ugh, pay to win, but just like if the developers are pushing it, just like, it's unfortunate because at that point, well, what else are we gonna do, right? As much as we want to boycott stuff, it's like, I'm not gonna not play Destiny. Or, I don't know. It puts me I'm conflicted with myself. I'm frazzled right now. This sucks.
Did you put money into Destiny at all? Like for loot boxes?
No, I didn't.
Do you think you would?
Adam, you're still alone here.
Dude, it's like, I totally recognize that I'm a sucker, but I don't think I will in the PC version, which is probably the primary place I'm going to play. But I was like so hyped in the beginning. I was like, I just want to see if I get an exotic emote or an exotic ship. And I got an exotic ship. I'm like, these suck. And I don't use them, but.
No, as long as it's cosmetic, and if it's a like game like Destiny, I might dump a little bit into it just to get like the the exotic like skins.
Yeah, they also have like armor that looks a little different.
Yeah, but the armor is like I said, it's cosmetic.
It
right?
is.
Where
It is. You just
where
infuse it with
doesn't
other
give
shit.
you. Yeah, you infuse it with other stuff. You don't get certain stats. It's not going to give you like max light level. It starts off at like 5 or something, and then you just infuse it up. So that's nice. But if Destiny started going into the way of like, oh, you could just buy your exotic, it's like, damn, like, what is the point? You know what I mean of the game then, where Destiny is based around having that carrot on the end of the stick that you chase, that is the loot, and then if you could buy the loot, it's, I don't know.
Yeah. So moving into Destiny next week, what is your like list of games you guys are gonna play? Like in what order? Because we got what? You got Destiny, you got Wolfenstein, you got Assassin's Creed, you got Mario.
I'm doing Mario first.
Mario is top of my
Mario
list, but
1.
Destiny comes first. I'm gonna play it for like 2 days.
I'm Mario 1, Assassin's Creed 2,
Wow.
Destiny 3, Wolfenstein 4, because Destiny, I've played some on console, but the boys have been waiting for the PC version, and so we'll probably all play that together. Can't do that until I'm back from my trip.
Okay.
So I will be, a couple days behind. I'll be the noob running around while everyone's all at 300 light level doing their raids. But that's the sort of the priorities that I'm putting on it.
I think Mario's definitely at the top of my list, 100%. Like leaps above everything.
It's got the second reviews come out. So the Edge review came out. That was perfect score.
Famitsu.
The Famitsu review came out. It's a 39 out of 40. Still pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
So far, it's probably a good game.
Then Destiny's on my list. Like I'm gonna play that somewhere. Like I'm probably just gonna play that to fill in gaps. And then I don't know about Assassin's Creed at all because I've never liked an Assassin's Creed game. But if they come out and like this is the one,
Not even Black Flag?
I played some of Black Flag and I loved the theme so much, and it didn't carry me through the game.
Interesting.
But if this one comes out and they're like, this is the one you should play. Like there's fantasy elements. It's fucking awesome. I will definitely give it a shot. And then Wolfenstein I'll probably save for a rainy day, like during Christmas time when it goes on sale or something like that. I'll probably pick it up then.
For me, since Destiny comes out on Tuesday, I want to play Destiny probably like Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a little bit on Thursday, just so I want to get to the point where I could just have reset Tuesdays, right? Where it's like, oh, it's Tuesday, everything reset. Let me just go ahead and get my Nightfall done. Let me get my raid done, and cool, I'm done with like Destiny for the rest of the week.
Now it's your chore.
But it's a fun experience, but there's just there's not much to do except that.
You're limited.
But, yeah,
in
you're
those
limited.
resets.
Not that Destiny doesn't have a lot of content. It's like a lot of people have been saying that. They're like, it doesn't have enough content. I'm like, you're 40 hours in. Like, how is it
Yeah,
not?
it doesn't have enough content if you blow through it. And
Yeah, if you blow through it and like,
I played it for 2 weeks solid or 3 weeks solid, and
Yeah.
I didn't run out of content necessarily. Like I
Yeah.
did the raid, I still wasn't max light level or anything like that.
Yep. So I'll do that with Destiny. Gotta get my Wolfenstein fix. So, and I'm assuming it's gonna be like an 8 to 12 hour game.
Yeah.
So I'll just blow through it over the weekend. And then my thing with Assassin's Creed is that I played the first one, then I played half the second one, and I was like, yep, I'm good. I don't need any more Assassin's Creed
All basically
ever.
same.
Yeah, and so it's been so long, and I know Black Flag I heard it was a good return, but I skipped out on that too.
Well, the trick with Black Flag is that it was a wonderful pirate game.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the most amazing Assassin's Creed game, but it was a wonderful pirate game that also just happened to be an Assassin's Creed game.
So with Assassin's Creed, if it gets really good reviews, then I'm like, okay, cool, because I like the set piece that's in right now.
I'm curious to see what the break has done for it.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna. I know they're not, but like I think the thing that might bring me back is if they broke away from that. It's an Assassin's Creed map where you go to the towers and you fill in the voids and you go check off all the boxes. Like they changed that up and made things felt more significant. I might go back, but I don't think they're. I pretty much know they're not going to do that. The one thing that intrigued me a little bit, aside from the setting itself, is the fact that there are like giant lizard enemies and like stuff that's not necessarily based in reality.
Yeah.
And I like me some fantastic.
What, like
elements.
the historical giant crabs?
You're right.
Fantastic beast.
Yeah.
Also, the issue that I'm kind of conflicted with is having played Mordor and then having Assassin's Creed.
It's very similar.
It's just a lot of similar in terms of like you were saying, running around, checkboxing, checking off things. Combat's very similar, right? The movement also very similar. It's kind of like, do I need two of those like games right now with
Like back-to-back.
so many other games coming out?
Yeah. Well, one thing that's interesting to note about Origins is that it is being directed by Ashraf Ismail, who did Black Flag.
Okay.
So
So you made one of the better ones.
Yeah. So it may be a departure from the traditional formula. I haven't really spent hands-on time with Origins yet, so I can't speak from experience. But I think he does really great work.
What's the
so I'm
equivalent?
optimistic.
What's the Egyptian equivalent of a sea shanty?
Oh, pyramid song?
Something to do with hieroglyphs.
We shall find out.
All
either
right.
way. All right, so that's about it for this episode of Glitch Please. We will be back next week with another episode. If you're a Rooster Teeth First member, you can also check out New Game Plus on our website, and we're learning Japanese. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I forgot to study.
Yeah.
Well, this is gonna be
Sorry, Ben. This is going to be fun. We're going to get punished. Okay, so that'll be fun, and we'll see you next week. Bye.